The Hyundai Palisade got an upgrade for the 2023 model year, and this thing looks really, really sharp. Now, this one probably looks slightly different than some of the other Palisades that you've seen on the road. And the reason why is because this one is the new urban trim level that's available exclusively in Canada. It looks really sharp. One thing would be really nice is that if it was a full black on black look, but as of right now, we've got some metallic highlights that make it pop a tiny little bit. It looks really nice. Now, there are a few changes from the 22 to the 23 model. If we look at the front end of the vehicle, it looks a little bit more like the redesigned Tucson. It's got this mean looking grille. We'll get to that one in a second. Now, in the US, we've got 5 trim levels, so one was added on, and that's the new XRT trim level. In Canada, we lost the luxury, but we gained the urban. But starting off, taking a peek at these beefy 20-inch tires. But the rim is where things pop that little bit more, and I love that blacked out look that you're gonna find inside of the urban trim level of this vehicle. It just pops, it makes it look really sharp. Now, if you're in the States, you want a blacked out rim, you could always do something aftermarket, look at hydro dipping and things like that to give it a little bit more of a unique look. But looking at all of our body moldings and rockers and things like that, whether it's body color or this style is going to depend on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. Looking at the tires in general, 18-inch tires in the lower trims, pretty much going to be 20-inch tires across the board otherwise though, but it is really, really nice. We are looking at all-wheel drive inside of this thing on top of that, so it is really good performance that you get. But I mentioned it earlier, looking at the newly redesigned front end of this thing, it looks really sharp. Like, oh, I just want to rub my hand all over this grill right now. It looks really nice. And I did mention it, it is very similar to the upgraded Tucson that we got in the 2022 model year. So just creating more symmetry throughout the brand, but I love it. We've got this gorgeous blacked out grille inside of the urban trim level, with it looking slightly different in the majority of the trims on top of that, but it is really nice. We do have our blacked out Hyundai badge in the very front, a front facing camera, side view mounted cameras, and a backup camera. So this thing has a full surround view monitor, so full 360 camera. The side view cameras are actually really cool too, because we've got the option for a blind view monitor, which means that we can see what's going on in our blind spot left and right in the cluster screen. It is beautiful. But you might just be able to make it out. We do have our forward sensing system, which is fantastic. Getting underneath the hood of the Palisade is straightforward. Just by our pedals, we've got a release and it unlocks it, but there's still a latch. So if we lift up, right in the middle there, we're just gonna flip it off to the left, and then using the force, we've got our hood, which is on hydraulics, fantastic. But we've got this, the 3.8 liter 6-cylinder engine, pushes out 291 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. So it does take on quite a few competitors that are in the same space performance-wise. Not a turbocharged engine, it's naturally aspirated, which means it has a good amount of power. One interesting thing is there is a boatload of space under here. So, I mean, if you're technically inclined, mechanically inclined, you could probably throw in a supercharger or a turbocharger if you wanted a little bit of extra power. It's kind of cool what this thing can push out though. But as always, we've got easy access to top up fluids. We can easily change our oil, easy access to the battery off to the right-hand side. One thing you definitely want to make sure you're doing though is maintaining your vehicle. A few different reasons. So you want to make sure that maintaining your vehicle, you maintain your manufacturer's warranty, because if you miss your regularly scheduled maintenance, something goes wrong, Hyundai could technically deny any claims that happen because you're not keeping up your end of the buyer's agreement. So just make sure, follow the regular maintenance schedule, make sure you're breaking the vehicle in for the first, I believe it's 800 or 1,000 kilometers. We're looking at what, about 600 miles or so for that break-in period. But I mean, overall, styling-wise, this is great. We've got a heat shield over top, and then this nice engine cover, which has kind of like it's like a faux carbon fibery type of look there, which is kind of nice. GDI badge in the very middle, but it looks pretty sharp. Filling up fuel inside of the Palisade, also straightforward. Just by our driver's side, we've got a cap system. So it's non-locked and it's also capped. So if you're concerned with fuel theft and things like that, You could technically look at an aftermarket cap that's got a lock on it. So there are a ton of options available there. But I mean, just insert regular 87 octane and you're pretty much good to go. And that's one of the great things, is that in the majority of Hyundai vehicles, just regular 87 fuel is all you need to use. And that's also going to depend on where you are geographically too, because if you're in Europe, chances are good you're probably looking at a 95 as your minimum. So as long as you're hitting that minimum 87 octane, you're good to go. But inside of this thing, it does have pretty good performance and good fuel economy all at the same time. Towards the back end of the Palisade, it looks fairly sharp. We've got a little spoiler over top, we've got our rear windshield wiper, backup camera, a reverse sensing system on top of that. So again, this thing is loaded with technology. It's kind of crazy. We've got a power liftgate as well, which is great. Now, one thing, we also do have a hitch or towing prep package that we can get right from the factory as well, which is fantastic. When we look at towing inside the Palisade, minimum amount that you're going to be able to pull is 1,650 pounds if you're pulling a trailer without brakes. But if you've got a trailer with brakes, you're looking at 5,000 pound towing capacity, which is pretty dang good for a vehicle this size with the engine that it's got. But it is nice. So you're pulling a small trailer, things like that, you're going to be covered off inside of this thing, which is great. But we've got our nice Palisade badge along the back there, Hyundai badge with our H-Track badge there on top of that. We could just make it out right on the very bottom, but we are going to be a dual tip exhaust as well, and the tips look kind of nice. One other thing, just underneath the vehicle, that's where we're going to find our spare tire. So if we ever want to change the tire ourselves because we popped it, just underneath with our jack stand, just right in the back of the cargo area there on top of that. But speaking of which, let's have a peek in the cargo area. All right, so I've got the cargo dimensions for the Palisade showing up right now. And as you can see there, we actually have a decent amount of space specifically for the back cargo area by itself. But one really cool thing about the Palisade is that we also do have power third row seats, and then we can also power fold release our second row seat. So third row is power up and down. Second row is going to be a power release, all from the back. It's kind of cool. So we've got a series of different buttons along the side, and we can lower down the left or the right side independently. Along the side here, all we're going to do is push. And down it goes. Super simple, but look at how that opens things up from a cargo perspective. So a lot more space there. And then as you saw, it's a 60-40 split. So 60 on the left, 40 on the right side on top of that. And then from the back, we can also press in order to drop down that second row seat. So it is fantastic. We've got that flexibility. And then obviously you can see in between there, I did mention we do have either the bench seat or the dual captain's chair. So either a 7 or 8 seat configuration, just depending on what you need out of your ride. But it is nice. So ton more space, a lot more depth when we've got both rows folded down. And I did mention it, we could also power lift up this third row seat instead, which is fantastic. Now, third row is backup power, which is great. But one thing, we do have to manually lift this back up. And one interesting thing, you might be able to see a slight separation difference between both sides. And that's because we can also slightly recline these things on top of that, which is cool. We've got some base controls back here, better controls in that third row as well, which is kind of cool. Actually taking a look at the cargo area, we've got this like cool protector that goes all the way through, and it is Velcro on top of that. So it is cool that we've got this as an option. But lifting this thing up, we've got a few things. So we've got our jack stand off to the right side. We've also got all of our releases and things like that for the stand itself there as well. Little cargo net. And then you might also be able to make out, we've got our little cargo shade. So we do have a few pieces that are cut out inside of the third row. So if we wanted to use that cargo shield, we could, just folding down the third row, and then it's spring loaded. So we can easily take this thing out in order to insert it both sides. Again, spring loaded to do it, which is fantastic. But I love it. I did mention, so we're gonna find our spare tire just underneath the vehicle on top of that. And then a few small things to point out in the third row. We've got some cargo hooks along the bottom there, so bottom top. And then along the other side where we can find all of our different seat lowering buttons, we're also going to find a 12-volt power point back there. Now, one other thing to point out about the liftgate. So if you find that it's a little bit too tall for your garage, we do have the flexibility of adjusting it. So all we do is pull up and down as necessary until we've got that perfect position. We're just gonna press and hold the button here in order to be able to lock it down to that position. So it's not gonna raise past that point whatsoever, which is fantastic. And then in order to close, we've got the button right along the top here. We've got a button just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel. We can also use the key fob in order to open and close it as necessary. All right, taking a peek along our driver's side door. So we do have this little icon there. So that's gonna highlight red when somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. Taking a peek underneath, we also do have our little camera there. So side view mounted camera, very, very useful because it also is going to show our blind spot right inside of our cluster screen. Along the outside of the vehicle there. So we've got this nice kind of chrome look on the outside. We've got this button here, so we can push that in order to be able to lock the doors if we want to. We can also press if we want to be able to unlock. And hopping inside, really nice look. So we've got this nice metallic look right along the door itself, following right up into our driver's seat memory, which is fantastic. We'll get to that in a second. But along the side here, you can see we've got this nice metallic highlight down below. We can adjust what's going on with our side view mirrors. We can also unlock and lock our window control and kill off power to those rear windows. Tiny little handle there along the side. A little bit of storage down below there on top of that. And then hopping inside. So we've got this nice looking Palisade badge right along the scuff plate there. We've got seats that are adjustable a few different ways, and it's going to depend on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. So this one essentially is fully loaded. So we've got seats that four-way adjustable for our lumbar support. So we can go up, down with it, etc. We can adjust our backrest there. We can go forwards, backwards, up and down with the seat itself. And then we also have this button, which, watch this, we can control the actual leg cushions inside of this too. Now, one other option is that inside of the calligraphy trim level, we can also get massage chair, driver's seat, which is fantastic. Moving on the inside there, series of different buttons that are available. So these ones here are going to adjust what's going on with our cluster screen, so we can adjust the brightness there. We've got our tow mode, traction control, we can open and close our liftgate, and then we've also got our electronic parking brake. Along the side, we also do have a manual telescoping steering wheel. So that's going to be the same way across the entire Palisade lineup. So we just crank down, adjust as necessary, and we're good to go. Ooh. All right, this is nice. This is really nice. All right, I love the seat. The seat is super comfortable inside of this thing. I did mention it, we've got multi-way adjustable seats, so it's going to depend on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. But the interior of this thing looks absolutely phenomenal. I love it. We've got this nice looking metallic highlight that follows all the way throughout the dash. It also follows down throughout the center stack too. It's going to look slightly different depending on which trim level of the vehicle you're in. And that's going to be the same across the entire Palisade lineup. So you'll get different types of highlights and things like that depending on the trim of the vehicle that you're in. But this is really, really sharp. We've got an upgraded speaker system inside of this, so a nice Harman Kardon sound system. We've got that badge along the door there, which again, looks really sharp. Just got to create a cross breeze. It's getting hot, but I love the new look. This is really sharp. Oh, I love it. Fully digital cluster screen, fully digital media screen that supports Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, etc. So let's dive into it. I'm gonna spin you around so you can see what's going on with the steering wheel and cluster. It's pretty dang nice. Next up, taking a peek at the steering wheel as well as the cluster inside of the vehicle. So first of all, I gotta say, I love the look of the digital cluster inside of this thing. It looks really, really sharp. We can find this in a series of other Hyundai vehicles as well. I just love the way that it looks. It is a little bit dynamic based off of different driving modes too. So, I mean, obviously, like, look at this sport mode. Oh, sport mode, eco mode, comfort mode. It gives it a little bit of a unique look, just depending on which mode that we're in, but it looks really, really nice. Like, I love me my sport mode. That looks amazing. But let's dive through everything that you need to know about this. First things first, steering wheel inside of this thing is heated, and it's heated all the way around. I love the little styling, like all of the little metallic highlights that follow throughout the wheel. It is going to be a manual telescoping, so just by our left knee there, we've got a little release, in, out, up and down as necessary. Once you've got that perfect position, you're just going to click it in order to lock it back into place. Let's go through everything. So we've got a stick on the left-hand side, and there's a little button right on the tip of that stick. A little selector switch, I should say, which lets us figure out what's going on with our lamps. I always just recommend keeping it in the auto setting there. We can flash our high beams out as necessary there, have it go into the auto mode as well. So when it's in auto mode, what that means is that if it recognizes an oncoming vehicle, it's going to dim your high beams and bring them back on again automatically. It's phenomenal versus just flashing them as necessary. Along the right side, we've also got, so this is going to be the control for our windshield wipers for the front and for the rear. So we can turn our wipers off for the rear there, high, low, off, etc. And we're going to pull towards us to get that front windshield wiper fluid going. We're going to push away in order to get the rear windshield wiper fluid going. So very straightforward there. We've got our paddle shifters there. So minus on the left, plus on the right-hand side. So if you want a little bit more of a dynamic feel as you're driving, you definitely want to play around with these a little bit. One big benefit is that, let's say if we're going downhill, you want to look at engine braking instead, you're carrying a heavy load, trailer, whatever the case may be, you're just going to drop down a few gears this way in order to essentially engage that low gear that we would traditionally find in some other vehicles. Now, going through all of the different buttons and things like that, there are so many things to cover off. This one here is our voice command prompt. So we'd be able to do things like change radio stations, we can navigate using our voice and things like that. We have a series of different commands that are available, but I mean so many different things that are available inside of this thing, all using this button. It is also dynamic. So if we're hooked up through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, we could also do a longer press. So small press and hold gives us our main voice assistant. Longer press and hold would either give us our Google or our Siri assistant as well, which is fantastic. We've got an individual mode button there. So that's going to let us change between our media sources. We've also got this little unique button that's going to let us change between a few things. So we can customize both of these buttons. So whether that's the main steering wheel button there or that custom button, we can essentially figure out what we want it to do. So do we want to reject calls? Do we want to do passenger talk? So talk to the people in the back side of the vehicle. Do we want it to pull up our map and a few other things? So we could customize this button to, both of these buttons to more or less do what we'd like it to do. We can answer or hang up on a phone call there. We've also got our volume rocker, so we can go up and down with it. We can push in order to be able to mute. So we go up and down to increase, decrease volume, push in to mute out. From there, we've also got this in order to change between different presets if we want to. So we can see we're kind of jumping between there. If we do a longer press and hold, it's going to seek that way instead. So whether we seek or we go between presets is going to be a matter of a light lift up and down or a longer press up and down inside of this button there. Along the right-hand side, series of other buttons. So this one is going to turn on our smart cruise control system. So once we start driving, we just push this button to turn it on, and then we can either increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time by going up and down this way. If you come down to a complete stop, we push in the middle here in order to essentially be able to resume the speed that we were set at. We can push this button, and that's a distance indicator once we've got this system turned on. So it's how close or how far do we want to be away from the vehicle that's in front of us. And then this one is also going to be our lane keep assist. So it's going to keep us nicely balanced in between our lane as we go. So really, really great setting. And then we've got these two little buttons. So this one is going to let us jump between all of our different pages in the cluster screen there. And then this one lets us go up and down between different sub pages, or it's just our general OK button. So we've got a ton of options that are available there, but you can see when we press this, it actually brings us over to this screen instead. So we've got some basics that we can go through. So let's actually go through some of those basics. So we've got our main settings screen there. We've got our driving info. So as you can see there, our trip counter, since refueling or accumulated, and then our speed. So our drive info is based off of our current drive. So we turn the car off, we turn it back on again. This one resets. Our since refueling, so since we last filled up our tank, how far have we gotten? And our accumulated info is our total counter. And then we've also got just our generic speed. So if we want to reset anything manually, all we're going to do is just press and hold OK, and that just simply resets it there. So, I mean, you've got a ton of different options that are available there. And then if we press the menu button again, we move over to this route, it does say no route set. But one cool thing is that if we had a route going, so let's actually go to our map. We can see some previous destinations and a few other things. Let's cancel this. Let's go for a point of interest icon. Let's go to, I'm Canadian, so let's go Tim Hortons. And we'll go to this one. We're going to set as destination and watch this. Oh! Start guidance.
The route guidance will start now.
Right through the cluster screen. So we've got our navigation popping up there, which is fantastic. Now this one doesn't have the head-up display, but if it did, our base directions would also show up in the head-up display, which is fantastic. And then from there, we can easily just cancel the route if we want to, and it just brings it back to our generic compass instead. One more button press brings it to our intelligent all-wheel drive, so we can see which wheel is getting which amount of power there as we go. And then, so we can't go up and down, so there are, well, I guess two options there. So our tire pressure, in order to see the tire pressure, you actually have to start driving in order for that to display, but it's going to show you what the tire pressure is on each wheel. And then back to the main screen. So we have to hold OK in order to go to settings, so let's go to settings there. And there we go. And that's pulled up some of these settings. So it's essentially driver assistant settings now. So let's focus in on that side there, show you some basics. We've got our highway drive assist, and then our speed changes on top of that. Smart cruise control system gives us a few different options as well. So we can control the distance, acceleration, reaction on top of that. Moving back, oh, wrong one, I hit search. Moving back, we've got a few other things. So speed limit, which is fantastic. So what's going to happen there is that we can get a warning or an assist, or nothing happens. So what that means is that, let's say if we've got it turned on for a warning, if we get 10 kilometers or 5 kilometers an hour over the speed limit, it's going to let us know that we're going too fast. Our speed limit assist is automatically going to lower our speed for us as well, based off of our current speed sign recognition, or we can just have nothing show up whatsoever. But as we adjust these things, you can see we've got our speed sign that's going to show up inside of our cluster screen as well, or it just disappears when it's turned off. We can adjust our warnings. We've got our haptic warning as well, so a vibration if we start to veer over without signaling, and then some driver assistance settings. So if we start to veer over too many times without signaling, eventually that's going to tell us that we should probably take a break. So it's really, really useful setting. Some options for driver assistance. So we've got our forward safety, which means that the vehicle is automatically going to brake for us if it senses a potential collision. It can automatically keep us in our lane as well. We've got a blind spot system, so that highlights on our side view mirrors there. Lets us know if anybody's onto the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. We've got a blind spot monitor, which I friggin' love this. Watch us. Oh, that's such a cool setting. So I love that Hyundai vehicles have this thing, but seeing what's going on our blind spot right in the cluster screen, I think is absolutely brilliant. Like, yeah, we can still check our side view mirrors. We should turn our heads and things like that. It is just really cool to know that we've got the blind spot monitor right in our cluster screen. And then exit safety lets us know what's going on if a vehicle is detected in our blind spot. And then we've also got some options for parking. So we've got surround view monitors, so our full 360 camera as we go to park there. I want to look at this though. Oh, I love it. Oh, that looks really sharp. So we've got that full 360 monitor there, and then our park distance warning. So as we're backing up, it's going to let us know if we're getting too close to an obstacle, and then our rear cross traffic alert. So as we go to back up, if it senses somebody's coming perpendicular, it's automatically going to brake for us. So a ton of different options that are available there. Now we are going to be push button start inside of the vehicle. When we do our base push button without hitting the brake, it turns us into accessory mode. And what that means is that it turns on the majority of the vehicle just without firing up the engine. So we do have that as an option. You're at, let's say, I don't know, maybe you're going to a drive-in. You can turn into accessory mode as necessary there too. But so many cool things to cover off here. Like, it is really, really nice. Oh, I love that cluster. Oh, I love that digital cluster screen. And the startup screen's animations look really sharp. Next up, taking a peek at the media screen for the Palisade. So I gotta say, this thing looks sharp, beautiful screen there, nice and responsive. It is really, really nice. Now, a few things to point out. Right along the side, first and foremost, we've got our seatbelt, so we can see who's currently plugged in. because we've got the bench, or because we've got the dual captain's chairs, we do only have 2 seats in the middle row. But if we had that full bench, we would have another one show up there. So it is kind of cool. We can see who's actually plugged in. But like I said, this is going to be our main screen. We can just do a button press to see what screens we can flip in between there as well, or just kind of start flipping as we go. So a ton of different things that are available. With our basic home screen here, we can push this in order to get to different user profiles. So really useful because we can ID the driver, we can change our image, we can link our Blue Link profile, and a ton of other things. So it is nice that we've got so much flexibility there. So if we've got multiple people driving the vehicle, we can adjust and lock things in, like all of our different presets and things like that, based off of who's currently driving. Moving up along the top brings us back to our home screen. This is going to give us a few options. So we've got our display off. So if you just want a blank naked screen, button press to bring it back on. We can edit all of our home icons. So if you wanted to adjust which icon is where, all we're going to do is press and hold, and then we can kind of drag as necessary to customize the full screen. And that's between all of these things. So if you're going to use things a little bit more frequently, we can adjust which position is in what section. We can just do a reset back to our factory defaults instead. So if you've played around with it too much, it just brings us back to our factory default. Button press along the top also can bring up our user manual QR code. So all we have to do here is just pull out our phone. We're just going to scan, and we can open up in order to get into our owner's manual. It is really nice that we've got that as an option there. Jumping back home brings us back to the main screen. We've got our current time, we've got our date, and then whether or not we're connected to Wi-Fi networks and things like that. Well, let's go through everything. So firstly, we've got our little map icon there, and that's going to bring up our factory navigation. But I mean, look at this. So nice. We can push this in order to go back to our main center. We've got our north view, we've got our top view, we've got another, like there are so many different views. It is really cool. Really nice. We can jump back home if we want to. We've got some options for guidance volume. So if we wanted to adjust the voice, sound effects, things like that, we can do that. We can also have navigation priority. So if we've got our audio playing and then we're coming to an upcoming turn, it's going to lower that volume so we can hear what's going on. We can increase or decrease to zoom in and out. We can also do pinch to zoom that way if we want to. We can have it set automatically. So it's automatically going to kind of zoom in and out for us as we go. We've got a base menu button. We can search for an address there as well. We can also go a little bit of a split screen here, so we can kind of go up and down in order to get to different things there. So we just kind of scroll up and down as we go in order to be able to get to different sub-screens, which is kind of cool. Back out, we can also adjust and we can add in destinations this way if we want to. We can add in a waypoint, save it. We can look at point of interest icons. So let's go through, and I'm going to circle back into me. We're going to go back to our menu, and we've got a few other options. So we've got nearby information, so anything nearby for point of interest icons. Do we want to show gas stations, restaurants, cafes, pharmacies, things like that? Do we want to display our traffic info? Do we want to turn the display off again? So a few different ways we can do that. It's kind of cool. Moving up next, we've also got this, so we could search for addresses this way if we want to. We can just start typing in an address, and then if we want to, so I've already searched for this address here, nice Canadian of me at Tim Hortons, so we're going to click on that. We can also activate our Blue Link services, which this vehicle is an unsold unit, so I'm not going to do that. And clicking through, let's hide this and go full screen. We've got 2 different routes that are available now. So we can select which route we want to go. We can start guidance. We can add in a waypoint. So let's say if we wanted to add in something in between, so going to a gas station, we can do that. We hit done. We can avoid certain things. So if we want to avoid freeways, toll roads, and other things, we've got that flexibility. We just recalculate whenever we add in certain things. So we just recalculate. I'm going to deactivate this for now, and no. And there we go. So it's readjusted. So if it recognized that, the route that we were taking needed to adjust for toll roads and things like that, it would automatically do that. And then we just hit start guidance.
Will start now.
And here we go. So we've got 2 individual views there. We've got our main view and then our kind of zoomed in view there as well. We can have one view or the other show up if we'd like to. We can show different rest areas. We can look at details up along the top. We can also see what's going on with parking nearby. We can see how far off we are. We can reroute as necessary. We can see how long it's going to take versus the estimated time of arrival. Closing off from there, We can also easily cancel the route if we want to go that route. So it is really straightforward using this. We can push all along the side there in order to, again, be able to adjust, add in different navigation guidance and things like that. So whether we decide to kind of zoom out this way to say, hey, we want to go there and then set destination, we've got that available as an option. Just button press there to go back to center again. So really straightforward. Now, one cool thing is that if we are on the home screen there, we could go to map and navigation there, or we just press the map button there in order to get into our map. And same idea, we've got navigation settings, which we can get to from the home screen, or we just press nav to hot button press and get into these instead. So some options, we can search, we can look at all our point of interest icons. So if we want to see what's going on with gas stations nearby, coffee shops and things like that, we'd have that flexibility. We can see previous destinations that we've gone to. If we want to, we can also delete destinations. So we can delete previously gone to destinations very simply there, 2 seconds, and it's done. Moving back, we can go look at frequently visited addresses and then different searches that we've performed. We can look at saved places. So really useful if you go to multiple places all the time. You can set up your home, work, and favorite addresses. And one of the cool things there is that if we press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, we can also say navigate home, navigate to work, whatever the case may be, and it'll automatically launch the map up to go to this place, which is really cool. We can see what's going on with Hyundai dealerships. We've got traffic, and then we've also got our favorites right along the very bottom. So we've got our saved places, and then we've got all of the different options there. We can press in order to search. We can have it go for point of interest icons, previous destinations, and things like that to set up all of our personal spots, the places that we want to go. It's really cool. And then as you saw there, pressing settings along the top brings us into a series of different navigation settings. So in our display, do we want to show our vehicle speed? Or for the display for the map? Yes, no. Do we want to show our traffic info, traffic colors, point of interest icons? So all of them, certain ones. Do we want to show our fuel price information as well? Looking at some options for guidance. Guidance, do we want to show speed limits or detailed guidance views? Looking at our navigation voice guidance, do we want to be able to mute things out as we're near our destination? Do we want to enable as we get closer to a border crossing? Do we want to show our full route overview when the vehicle comes to a complete stop? Previous destinations, do we want to save them? Or if we have this deselected, whenever we go to an address, it's going to delete it automatically. And then do we want to show our previous destinations as well? Options for map, we can change it out. So whether it's going to be the north up 2D, 2D heading, 3D, etc. We can auto scale, which means it's automatically going to zoom in and out as necessary, just depending on how close we are to our destination. We can change out our font size, so if you need things a little bit larger. If you want to change out the color of the map, oh, that's really cool. Blacked out map, really nice. So you've got some options. Actually, I want to see what that looks like. Blacked out map, oh, that's cool. All right, that's kind of neat. So we've got that available as an option. Jumping back into settings, map, color, so we can change it out to whatever we'd like to there. Moving back, we can also change out our Star Trek-y kind of symbol. Who do we want to be? We've also got our map auto scale. So as we're going different speeds, how far or close is it going to zoom in and out for our destination there, which is kind of cool. Some other base settings, do we want it to automatically recenter the map? Do we want to have the return to map? So as we're going through different navigation settings and things like that, do we want it to automatically return to the map or not? Do we want to show, well, we've got all of our user data there, so we can import or export as necessary. And we can see our current GPS location. So if we're lost, we're not sure where to go, and we need to call CAA, AAA, whatever the case may be, we can share our GPS location as necessary if we need to. But tons of different settings, but that's everything you need to know about factory navigation inside of this thing. Next up, adding in a phone is straightforward. So we're going to start off on the iPhone side of things. So you can see there, we've got a phone that's already connected. We can add in, we can go to settings, or we can cancel. So let's actually jump into settings for a second to show you a few things. So we've got our device connections, so we can add in a new device, we can delete. We've got our Bluetooth prompts as well. We've got our system information, so we can change the vehicle name this way. So if you want to call it Bob's Ride, we've got the flexibility to do it. And we can also change our passkey as we're connecting. Phone projection settings. So we've got enable for full screen Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. We can use split screen as well if we want to. I'm curious because on previous Android Autos, split screen didn't work. Or sorry, full screen didn't work. It was always split screen. So I'm going to leave that disabled for both of them for now. I'll jump back in and show you what it looks like though. But that's all of our device connection settings. So we go back into our phone again, and let's look at adding in a phone.
Turn Bluetooth on from your device in order to search. On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
So we're going to Bluetooth, and we're just looking for Palisade. Pins match up, which is good. Do we want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? I'm going to say no to that one for now, but I am now fully connected there. So if we jump back into my phone now, so you can see there, it's going to try to navigate or download contact history and things like that. It's not going to because I said no, but we've got everything we need. So messages, contacts, things like that. We've got our phone name. We've also got what's currently going on with our connection and our battery life. We've got our speaker there as well. So if we wanted to dial out that way, we could. We can swap out devices. If we press and hold, we've also got our Siri assistant that's pulling up there. We can also press and hold on the steering wheel in order to be able to activate Siri that way. So it is really cool that we've got so many options that are available here. Next up, we've also got the flexibility of setting up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. We are looking at a wired connection in order to be able to do it, but I mean, at the same time, it's not overly difficult. So we're just going to take our USB cable. We're going to plug it into our USB port. Opposite end of the cable, we're just plugging ourselves in. And there we go. Do we want to allow CarPlay while the Palisade is locked? Yes, we want to allow that. We're going to hit next and OK in order to agree to this. Launch into CarPlay, and I mean, 2 seconds and we're fully connected. So this is our main home screen. We can swipe across in order to go to different subscreens if we want to. We can press this button whenever it's changed out in order to get back to this main screen. But we've got Go, we've got Voice, we've currently got what's going on with our audio. So our media on the phone is going to show up there. We've got phone, we've got Apple Maps, we've got Google Maps, we've got Waze, and we can use all of these things right through the middle screen as well, which is fantastic and full screen. We can also, so in all of these map applications, change out our route options. We've got our map colors, north up, we can adjust the volume and things like that. Easily search for an address. We can easily move this way, but we can't pinch to zoom. We actually just have to go in here, and we can either increase or decrease this way if we want to. I'm just hitting done when we're finished up, and then searching for an address there, or a button press to get back this way. Certain apps will work through this screen, other ones may not, just depending on, well, I mean, it's Apple CarPlay essentially, so certain things like Hoopla is a library app, Live One is a radio app, and certain things will work and won't work. So YouTube Music, you can play over Bluetooth, YouTube Video will not play over CarPlay, so we can't watch video, unfortunately, right through the screen. I'm like, oh, I wish, just not available there as an option. But I mean, it is really nice that we've got this, so CarPlay really straightforward to use. If we jump back into our setup for a second, we've got our device connections, and let's go device connection. Oh, actually, I want to go phone projection. So in order to be able to change anything, we need to unplug first, phone projection, and the reason why I'm doing this is to show you what split screen is like. So we're going to go split screen. We're going to plug back in. And it's reading, it'll take a second there.
Download.
Okay, Apple CarPlay is connected, so let's go back home, launch into CarPlay, and as you can see there, we've now got our split screen set up. Now, another thing to point out is that as of right now, it doesn't look like it will let us. Okay, so we can go up and down between these different screens in our subscreen. We can't change out our sources though. So if we want to, let's say, listen to the radio, whatever the case may be, what we have to do is hit radio here. It's going to pull up this radio screen instead. So all we're going to do is change to, do we want AM, FM, SiriusXM? So we're going to tune to whatever station we want to, whether that's AM, FM, SiriusXM, etc. So we can see the radio is going, and all we do is go home, back to CarPlay, and then as you can see there, we are listening to our radio again. So it's, and unfortunately, like, we have to kind of do that route where we get out of CarPlay, go into our audio that we want to listen to, relaunch CarPlay in order for it to work, but that's how we set it up. So super simple to do, and that's the same on the Apple CarPlay and the Android Auto side of things. A little bit of a pain, but I mean, as you saw there, not impossible to do all at the same time. And then if we go back home, we can go back to our setup there. We can go to our device connections. If we look at our currently connected devices, you can see I'm connected to CarPlay. If we have multiple phones connected, we can kind of go up and down to see who gets connection priority. So if you've got multiple devices connected or in the vehicle, who is going to connect to first? We can also, if we want to, unplug. And as you can see there, it now gives us the flexibility of connecting either our phones or strictly the audio. So if you wanted to have one phone set up for our phone and the other one set up for audio, we'd have that flexibility. We can also easily delete devices, select, delete, yes. And 3, 2, 1, the phone is now disconnected. So it's that simple setting up Apple CarPlay inside of the Palisade. All right, next up, setting up an Android device is the exact same process. So all we're going to do is go to phone, we can hit add,
from your device in order to search.
and then on the phone, we just make sure that we scan in our Bluetooth. We've got Palisade, make sure it adds up, okay. Perfect. And it's connected now. So we jump into our phone again. And as you can see there, we've got call history, dial pad, we've got the phone name, we've got our current battery levels, connection levels, and things like that. So tons of different options. We can easily do a phone swap this way. We can go full screen instead. So if you want to switch between devices, we can do that instead. But I mean, as you saw there, very straightforward. We can start dialing in this way as well, but really straightforward. And then setting up Android Auto is the exact same process as Apple CarPlay. So we take our USB cable, plug it into that USB port. Opposite end of the cable, we're just plugging ourselves in. And Android Auto just pulls it up. So do we want to? And hit deny for contacts. Next. Android Auto is connected. And it doesn't look like they've fixed the full screen bug yet. Oh no. All right, so I do technically have full screen enabled, but it's obviously a split screen right now. So we still aren't in full screen Android Auto as of yet. I'm like, hopefully it comes soon. We're just not there. But as you can see there, we're connected. We've got Google Maps showing up. Same thing as we saw on the iPhone side of things. We can jump through, changing out our route options and things like that. Easily search for addresses. We've got podcasts, we've got our music recommendations, our notifications, we've got our Google Assistant there. So we can push there to get our Google Assistant, or we do is do a press and hold on our steering wheel, so long press and hold in order to get to this screen instead. Moving in here brings us back to our main screen there. So as you can see, I do have both Google Maps and Waze installed on this phone, but it's only Google Maps that's showing up as of right now. So it doesn't look like we're on the Waze side of things in this car as of yet, unfortunately. But we've at least got our factory navigation, or we can jump into Google Maps that way. We can jump into our podcast this way if we want to. Back home, pressing that little button and things like that. So it is nice that we've got so many options. We could technically customize the layout. It's not quite as user-friendly as it is on the Apple side of things. And the reason why I say that is because when we search for Android Auto on our phone, it's going to give us the flexibility to do a few things, just not quite as many things as the Apple side of things. So if we search for Android Auto, we've got our settings there. We've got our currently connected car, previously connected cars. We've got a few other things. Now, it does show wireless Android Auto on here. Unfortunately, this screen does not support wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. And then very similar to what we saw on the Apple side of things, we can also customize it. So if we want different things to show up in different locations, we've got that flexibility. One thing to note, any changes that we make here, we actually have to disconnect our phone and we have to reconnect in order for any changes to take effect. So it's not dynamic the same way it is on the Apple side of things, but I mean, it still is nice at the end of the day, we've got that flexibility. Jumping back home, we can go back into our device connections if we want to, and we can also look at our device connections, see what's connected. Now, one interesting thing, in order to be able to delete it, we actually have to disconnect first. So if you ever get that message, just make sure you're unplugged, not set up through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Select your device, delete, yes, 3, 2, 1, and the phone is deleted. So it's that simple, setting up both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay inside of the Palisade. All right, next up, so as you can see there, we've got our phone and phone projection. We've also got voice memos. So if we wanted to record memos right onto the car, we could do that. We've got some pretty cool climate control settings here too. So we do have dual zone climate control that we can adjust this way if we want to. We've got a generic sync button. So what that's going to do is bring our passenger side to whatever the driver's side is. We can have the vehicle determine what's going on with the cabin temperature there as well. We can have it going to our windshield face feet, some sort of Frankenstein combination of all of the above, which is kind of cool. And again, as I said, we can sync up from there if we want to. Turn the whole system off. We do also have some options for rear climate. So we could lock out the rear climate controls. So if kids are, bugging you back there, we can lock them out. We've got some options for recirculating air, dehumidify, defog. We can pull up our rear climate as well. So if we wanted to adjust what's going on with our rear climate settings, we've got that flexibility. We can have it automatically adjust, turn the whole system off, or have it go to the face, feet, etc., or a combination of the above. Jump back into front climate if we want to. Rear climate there is an option, which is kind of nice. Turn it off. We've got our rear warmer. So if your Palisade has the option for our heated second row seats, we would have the flexibility here in order to be able to adjust it as necessary. So we can turn off the left seat, we can turn on the right left seat, whatever the case may be, right from the front here, which is really, really nice. So the settings that you've got will all show up here, whether it's heated, ventilated, whatever the case may be. And then just button press in order to get back home again. And next up, we've got our valet mode. So we do need to have Blue Link activated, but that's essentially going to lock things out so valets can't look through all of our different settings and things like that. Passenger talk, so you can hear that. So what's going to happen there is it essentially picks up the microphone in the front end and it lets us talk to what's going on, to everybody that's in the second and third row of the vehicle. So if you've got kids screaming, rather than turning around and screaming at them, you can say, hey, calm down, and you can do that right through the screen here instead. We can enter in a quiet mode, which is useful because if you've got sleeping kids, what we can do is we can hit quiet mode and it's going to lower all of the volume to max 25 and strictly use the front speakers inside of the vehicle. From there, we've got our rear climate, which we saw earlier. We've got our HD radio, series of different options for setup there as well. So starting off, we've got some options for vehicle settings, tons of options here. We've got things for driving convenience. So if we want to adjust our smart cruise control systems, we can do that. We've got our highway drive assist, which these things are really great because it's more or less going to keep us fully balanced in our lane as we go with all of these different things. Like smart cruise control is going to raise or lower our speed as necessary, which is fantastic. We've got our speed limit assist. So if we've got it turned on, what that's going to do is if it recognizes that we're going a little bit too fast based off of this, it's going to either assist us, so slow the vehicle down, it's going to give us a warning, or it's going to do nothing. We've got different warning volumes as well, so whether or not these things show up for parking safety, driving safety, etc., high, normal, low, or nothing. Haptic warning, so do we want a little bit of a steering wheel shake when we start to veer over into a lane without signaling? Lane departure alert, so if we start to veer over too many times, eventually it's going to tell us we should probably take a break. Some options for driver safety, forward safety, if there's a potential collision, it's going to automatically brake for us. And we've got some different things, so whether that's standard or if it's going to take a little bit longer to do. Lane safety is going to help keep us nudged into our lane. Blind spot, our side view mirror, there's a little icon that's going to highlight and let us know if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. Blind spot monitor, as we hit left versus right arrow or turning stick, our monitor means that we're going to get a little indicator right in our cluster screen letting us know what's going on either side of the vehicle. Exit safety is potentially going to let us know if somebody's in our blind spot there and provide a warning sound for us. And then parking safety. So camera settings, we've got a few different options there. Do we want to show our parking lines, distance lines, different things for display on top of that? So do we want it bright, darker, adjust the contrast and things like that? But the camera inside of this thing is really cool. Like we've got our basic backup camera, we've got our full 360 camera, but watch this. Bam! Look at how freaking cool this is. So as we go backwards, whatever the case may be, so we can adjust here. So we can see what's going on around us as we go. It is such a crazy system. Like I absolutely love the way that this thing looks. I love the functionality of it. It is really, really cool. So we've got some really good options for our parking safety, 360 cameras, etc. Different options for drive modes. So for towing, are we towing heavy, medium, or lightweight as well? Some different options for our cluster screen. So do we want to change out the brightness of the cluster, blue light filter, audio system, and things like that? It is really nice. So blue light filter is useful because if we're driving later on at night, it can help to reduce eye strain. Do we want to have it automatically come on as it's later on at night, or do we want to schedule when the blue light filter turns on? Audio system on off. Do we want to continue to play the music while the vehicle is turned off? And then different options for our camera settings. So we saw that one earlier. Next up, different option. Ooh, did I get all of these? I did not. Okay, we've got our service interval there as well. So do we want to enable service intervals? So yes, no. Lets us know exactly what's going on when we need to get service done. Refuel, so do we want to reset our fuel economy after we refuel, when we start the vehicle, or manually? What's showing up in the cluster? Do we want to have our wiper lights, our blind spot monitor, icy road? Do we want to have the welcome sound as well? Moving into our climate, we saw some of these earlier when we were in climate, but for recirculate air, do we want to have that activated when we use our wiper? Do we want to have it automatically dehumidify or schedule the ventilation, auto defog, and then our base climate settings so we can lock these things out. Different options for our seat as well. So do we want to have an alert whenever our seat position's changed? Our third row back folding, so it's kind of cool. Do we want to have the left or right seat folded or unfolded as well? And we can control that. That is crazy. I didn't even know we could do that from the inside here. We can either have it fold, unfold as necessary, right inside of the cluster or the media screen. That is really cool. I love that. We've got our seating access as well. So what that means is that when we go to turn the vehicle off, it's going to lower and then back our seat up so that we can get in and out of the vehicle a little bit easier. Some different options for lights. So with our turn signal, do we want to have 3 blinks? Do we want to have 1, 5, or 7? Our welcome lighting as we approach, do we want our lamps on the outside to light down in order for us to see what's going on? Our headlight delay, so after we go to lock the vehicle, do we want those headlights to stay on? High beam assist, what that's going to do is it's automatically going to reduce our high beam if it recognizes an oncoming vehicle. Different options for our door. For locking, do we want to have the doors automatically lock when we shift or when we when we start driving? Do we want them to unlock when we shift to park, when we turn the vehicle off, or do we never want them to automatically unlock? Do we want to have the vehicle 2 press to unlock? Do we want to turn off our power liftgate? Do we want it opening fast or slow? Do we want to also have our full open, level 1, 2, or 3, or do we want to be able to select our own unique height? We've also got our smart liftgate. So smart liftgate, when we've got our key fob on us, it's automatically going to open up the liftgate for us. Let's hop outside. I'll show you how that system works. In order to use the smart liftgate inside of the Palisade, what we want to do, make sure that the vehicle's locked first. Now, from there, you actually have to walk away for about 10 to 15 seconds at least. So you go shopping, groceries, pick up your kids, whatever the case may be, and then go for a walk. And then once you've waited about that 15 seconds or so, you're just going to start walking towards the back end of the vehicle. Completely hands-free, which is phenomenal. Like, I love the fact that we've got that available as an option. And then we can also use our key fob in order to be able to roll the window down as well. It's fantastic. So in order to be able to use the setting, what we're going to do on the key fob, we're going to press the unlock button twice. On the second button press, we're going to hold. And then one thing to note, we do have to keep on holding it because if we let it go, it's going to stop part way. But watch this. We're going to go 1, 2, and hold. Down they go. We release and it stops. If we press again, back down they go. We can go all the way down. So it is going to be a power down and it is a manual back up. Moving back, we've also got, so all of these options, our convenience settings. So do we want our rear occupant alert inside of our cluster screen when we turn the vehicle off? Do we want the rear wiper coming on? So if we've got our front windshield wiper going and then we put the vehicle into reverse, it's automatically going to turn our rear wiper on for us. And that's, well, basics. That's everything about our vehicle settings. We've also got our navigation settings, which we've already seen these ones. Different options for sounds. So do we want to have our speed dependent volume? So it's going to adjust our volume based off of how fast we're going. Do we want to have it focused everywhere, just on us? Do we want to change out the treble, mid-range, bass? That is a little much. Something like that would kind of be like an ideal setting. So a little bit less on the treble, mid-range at 0, bass at 4 is going to sound really good. Guidance options, so do we want to have all of these different volumes going? Radio noise, do we want to minimize? Driver assistance settings, so do we want to have all of our park safety priorities, which we've seen these ones. We've got connected devices audio, so do we want to have our media and voice guidance at what volume? So we can select our volume there for both Android Auto and for Apple CarPlay. We can also toggle off that beeping. So if that drives you nuts, we can turn it off. Moving back, we've also got our device connections, which we saw that earlier. We've got user profiles that we've already seen. We've got our voice recognition as well, so we can also reduce the number of voice recognition prompts. Screen layout, do we want to have it linked to or the different drive mode that we're in? Different screensavers, so do we want to have nothing when we turn the display off? Do we want to have an analog or a digital clock? So it's kind of nice that we've got that as an option, and we can also adjust what the clock face looks like, which is kind of cool. Split screen, when we're in split screen, what's showing up? I personally just recommend showing everything, but then you can also just do a drag and hold if you want to adjust what's showing up where. Moving back, we've got our display, so we can adjust the brightness, adjust our blue light, audio system on off, and then our camera settings, which again, we've seen all of these when we were in other screens, and that's kind of a recurring theme. In your main settings, you can see the majority of things, and then as you dive in deeper, you're going to see some of these things repeated as well. We've got 3 customizable buttons. So we've got 2 on the steering wheel, and then we've got 1 just right down there. So we can customize which each one of these buttons will do. When we hit the volume knob, what's that going to do as well? So we've got a few different options that are available there. We've got our Blue Link system, and then we've got a series of general settings. So we've got our system update. So if there's an update available, we can go there. We've got some basic system information there to see what's going on with our storage, QR code in order to get into our user manual, modem info. We can adjust our date and time based off of our GPS location, or we can manually adjust. Do we want to have our 12 or 24 hour mode? Do we want to have it automatically adjust? So for our daylight savings time there as well. So actually, I guess it's technically a manual adjust, but it is available there. For languages, do we want English, French, Spanish, or Korean? And then for our keyboard, do we want to have our QWERTY keyboard? Do we want to have our ABCD, etc.? And then do we want to have for what keyboard language do we want there? So many different options that are available. Next up, jumping into our radio. So as you can see there, we've got what's currently going on with our radio. We can tune this way if we want to, so just right down there. We can also scan this way, and then in order to save a station, we just tune to the one that we want. We press the little star button in order to be able to save the station in. And as you can see there, we can jump between all of our preset pages, and that's a mix of AM, FM, SiriusXM, etc. We've got our HD radio, and then our Quantum Logic sound as well. We can jump between AM, FM, SiriusXM also gives us a few other things, so we can press here in order to be able to enter the channel name that way instead, if we wanted to. And then we've also got a series of other things. So for SiriusXM specifically, we can look at our channel list, see all the channels that are available. We can jump back and go inside of this menu, just scan all of our channels. We can delete presets and things like that as well. So it is kind of nice that we've got the flexibility to actually delete presets that we don't really want. So if all of the presets are there, we can just mark all, delete, start from scratch if we really wanted to. But it's cool. And then going back, we've got some basic stations this way. So we can also adjust, enter a station in this way instead. Okay, to change that way. We can go back up and see our full station list. So if we're in a new area, we want to know what's playing and what's available. We just go to our station list, give it a few seconds. We can save these things as presets based off of what's currently around us right now. Moving back, but it is cool. I love the way that looks. And we can also do a split screen on this thing if we want to. Moving back, let's go into our media next, and that gives us the flexibility of adjusting what media we're connected to. So we've got AM, FM, SiriusXM. Sounds of nature is kind of neat. So listen to this. Tons of different options there. We can push this in order to get back to our media sources again, and giving us tons of different options. We can go Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. If we had a USB stick with MP3s, that would show up as an available option as well. But so many options available. Moving back, we've got our Blue Link, notification, and then back to our user manual there as well. All right, and as we start to move down, so a few other things to point out. I did mention, so we've got a ton of different buttons that are available there. We've got our volume rocker there. Really, really great song. The artist is incredible, but the sound inside of it is even better. And that's because this one has the upgraded Harman Kardon sound system. We've got a series of different options for our climate control settings there, so we can adjust what's going on driver passenger side if we want to. We've got our rear climate control, our front climate control that we can adjust here as well. Do we want to adjust our fan speed? And that's for the front, or we can adjust it out for the rear as well. Do we want it going to the windshield facer feet for the rear? And when it's like this, windshield facer feet for the first row. We can have air circulation, rear defroster, and then as we move down from there, a series of other options. So let's lower you a little bit there. And down we go. All right. So we've got our park reverse neutral drive mode as well. Really, really straightforward. With the auto hold setting, what that setting does is if we go drive and we've got auto hold on, we can take our foot completely off the brake, and you can hear it going because there's an obstacle in front of me, but the car's not moving, and that's because of this incredible auto hold setting. So what it's going to do is fully keep the vehicle in place when we have our foot off the brake and we've come to a complete stop, which is phenomenal. Off to the side, we've also got this selector switch that lets us jump between different drive modes. So we've got our comfort mode, eco, sport, and smart mode. And then each mode is going to adjust what's going on with the cluster screen as well. Or we can hit the button in the middle in order to jump between different terrain modes. So each mode will do something different there. Do we want to play with our traction and stability control all across the board? Do we want to have it focusing on more economical driving? Do we want it to really redline and give us a more sporty performance? So I personally love this mode. It is phenomenal. If we're towing, we're probably going to want to be in our eco mode instead. But I mean, the mode that you're in is going to depend what's currently going on. Off to the side, we've got our downhill brake control, which is going to hold us at a set speed as we go downhill. We can turn our park sensing system on or off. Auto hold, that's the one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine if we're stopped for an extended period of time. We've got our 360 camera, so either just in our backup camera or we can look at different 360 views as well. From there, the buttons that are here are going to depend on the Palisade that you've got, but we've got a heated steering wheel, heated first row seats for driver passenger, ventilated first row seats for driver and passenger as well. So it is really nice, but I really, really love the look of the center stack here. It looks really, really sharp. But one other thing to show you, look at this. Here we go. So we've got this little button here that we can push, and when we do, bam! All right, so as you can see there, let's brighten you up a tiny little bit. But we do have a USB power point. There is the option for a wireless charge pad. So depending on which version of the vehicle that you're in, you might have a wireless charge pad available. We also do have these two little buttons here. So we've got the option of adjusting what's going on with our cup holders there. So it is kind of cool that we've got that available as an option. I love it the way that it looks. Is single button press, really, really straightforward, but really nice all at the same time. And then we also do have, when we're in that highest trim, so the calligraphy or ultimate calligraphy, a head-up display. So this specific one, because we're in the urban version of the vehicle, doesn't have that HUD, but it is available there as an option. Now, a few other things to point out. We've got a little armrest that's got a removable tray. Inside there, we've got two power points. So we've got a USB-C as well as a traditional 12-volt power point there too. Really, really nice. Oh, all right, other things to point out. Just underneath, so when we go underneath the center stack, we've got a few more power points. So we've got a 12-volt power point as well as another USB-C power point. So what was that? So two USB-C, and then we've got a USB. And then even in our seats, we've got our USB power points there too. So power all over the place inside of this thing. Shooting along the side, we do have a little glove box there, which has a fairly unique look to the way that the switch works. It's kind of cool. Up overhead from there, we've got an auto-dimming rear view mirror. We've got our garage door opening buttons there that we can turn on off as necessary. From there, we've also got like a little convex mirror so we can see what's going on behind us. So you got kids arguing, fighting, whatever the case may be. We can drop that in order to see what's going on back there. And one really cool thing, through this media screen, we have something called passenger talk. It's essentially like a car intercom system. So what'll happen is it'll pick up the front microphones and shoot that audio to the back so you can talk to your kids if they're kind of driving you a little bit crazy. Look a little bit. You've got that option, which is kind of cool. Overhead from there, we've got our SOS and our tow mode. We've got our interior light control. And then depending on the version of the vehicle you're in, you're either going to have this smaller sunroof or a fully panoramic sunroof, so it's going to stretch across the entire part of the vehicle instead. That one looks really sharp. Not saying this one doesn't, but it's nice that we've at least got a little sunroof there. We could, oh, let there be light, open this thing up very easily, pause it part way, etc. We can drop it, and then when it's fully closed, we also do have the option of lifting up if we want to vent it out instead. So we can either vent it out or we can just fully open it up instead. So you've got some options there, which is definitely a nice thing. Now, other things to point out, we've got our visor, little business card holder with a vanity mirror that has a built-in light that turns on or off as you're sliding this open. And then the visor also extends out to block all of the sun, which I love. But overall, like styling-wise, this is great. I do also have to do an audio test. You're my darling angel, closer than my peeps you are to me. Love the song, Shaggy. Oh, fantastic. The song is amazing, love the artist, but the sound inside of this thing is incredible. I did mention we've got a few different options for our sound, but I mean, you just heard that with the upgraded Harman Kardon system, it sounds unbelievable. But overall, like I said, first row impressions, I love the way that this thing is, but let's hop into the second row and see what's going on back there. All right, second row time. So this is equally as impressive. Now, one thing you might notice, this thing has a shade built in. Really, really cool. I love it. More and more cars are having this thing built in, and I think it's just brilliant. So having that shade, really good. You've got sleeping kids, you're afraid of the light, you've got a teenager that needs to huddle in darkness. You've got that available as an option. But the second row seats inside of this thing, equally as comfortable as the first row. Oh, this is really nice. This is really nice. Now, one cool thing. So the seats, we can slide them forwards, backwards as necessary. So if we need to create more space for that third row, we've got that flexibility. But it is really nice back here. The same kind of base look and layout we've got for the first row follows through to the second. So we've got that nice metallic look along the door there, a little speaker. We've got our window control, a little door handle. We've got some cup holders there too, which is fantastic. And then down below, we've got a little bottle holder. From there, behind the first and row seats, we also do have our first and row. Behind the first row seats, we've also got some pockets there for driver passenger side, which is great. We've got some USB power points along the inner part of both first row seats on top of that, which is fantastic. The second row seats, like they're so comfortable. But I mean, like up overhead with me being 6 feet tall, I've got, 4.5 inches of headspace here, which is crazy. I love that we can also adjust the seats so we can recline them if we need to. Oh yes, look at that recline. Oh, that is really comfortable. If you didn't have people in the third row, I would absolutely be driving with like this. Oh, that's really comfortable. All right, so lots of space back here, which is great. The seats are super comfortable. We've even got these like kind of neat little pockets along the inside here that we're gonna find when we get the dual captain's chairs set up instead. Now, from there, we've also got this little control, which is going to be for our climate back here. And so that essentially does make it a tri-zone climate control. So we've got our dual zone in the front and then control for the back here. We've got heated second row seats. So heated second row, optional ventilated second row, and I did mention it, optional heated third row, which is like mind-blowing. But all of the controls we can do right through the back here. If you've got kids that are driving you nuts, you could also toggle it off so they can't use this system anymore. But we do also have a 12-volt power point back here. So traditional cigarette lighter adapter is back there as well. Now, seat and configuration-wise, we've got the option for either a 7 or an 8-seat configuration. Now, this one, obviously, 7-seat configuration because we don't have the bench seat. But when we get the bench seat, it doesn't matter which trim level of the vehicle that you're in, that middle seat is never going to be heated. So it's strictly going to be the outboard seats for that heated ventilated option. They're never going to have that middle seat heated whatsoever. But whether you decide to go for this seating configuration or if you want to go for the 8-seat is going to depend on what you personally need out of your vehicle. Because if you just need more space and you only need technically a 4 or 5-seater, getting the bench could be useful. And then you can easily just fold down that third row if you need like gear for hockey and things like that. I personally am a bigger fan of the 7-seater to get in and out in order to get to that third row. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible to get into the third row with the bench seat. One cool thing about these seats, did I just lock myself in? No. Child locks are on this door. Hold on. I've got child locks on this door right now. Okay, hold on. Child locks. Hilarious. All right. So, in order to get into these the third row seats, obviously if you have the pass-through, you can just walk through that middle seat there. Super simple. But we also do have 2 individual buttons. So we've got one right along the outside of the seat down low, and we push that in order to be able to jump into the back here. And then if you're in the back and you need to get out, there's a button along the very top. So we push that, and same idea. We power fold, and just like that, we're inside the third row. So it's not challenging at all to get into the third row of this thing. So whether you've got the pass-through in the middle here, or if you've got to push the buttons in order to be able to move the seat forward. So, I mean, spacing wise, there actually is like a surprising amount of space in the third row. Now, I've got the passenger first row, passenger second row seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. So that would be me comfortably being able to sit in both seats. Now, if I fling myself across the side here into this third row seat, it's a tiny bit tight. So, I mean, I could technically move my knees a little bit, but using that bar between the legs, I would probably try to get this second row person to move their seat forward a tiny little bit. But I mean, at the end of the day, the third row seats are actually still, same thing, surprisingly comfortable. Like, could you fit 3 full versions of me into the third row? Probably not, but at least 2 full-size versions of me, absolutely. And then one cool thing, we've got all of our anchor points back here too. So our anchor points in the third row, anchor points in the second row, and all of our necessary tethers. So if you've got front-facing, rear-facing child seats, you're not going to have an issue in the second or the third row whatsoever, which is fantastic. But I mean, I've got a boatload of knee space here, which is kind of nice. Like, I mean, it is nicer because this is the bench seat. So, I mean, I could technically just like kick my legs out in the middle seat if I absolutely had to, which is nice. But I mean, even if you didn't pull the seat all the way back, I mean, it still leaves a boatload of space back here, which is fantastic. Now, one cool thing, with the third row seats, I did mention we've got the option for heated third row, but we've got some USB-C power points back here, and we've got this handy little button that lets us recline the seat a little bit. So we can bring it forwards, backwards a tiny little bit, which is really nice. We've got a 60-40 bench split back here. So if you want to kind of lay back a tiny little bit, you've got that as an option. I was like, you've got like a little seatbelt overhead here. It's for the middle seat there. But I mean, let's say if I had to sit in this seat upright, I've got like about what? Maybe an inch, actually. If I'm fully upright, that's actually not too bad. Not too shabby. I've got almost 3 inches of headspace in the third row. So it is really, really nice to know that if you need the space inside of this thing, you will absolutely have it all across the board. It's phenomenal the amount of space inside of this thing. Well, folks, that was a look at the 2023 Hyundai Palisade. What did you think? This thing is crazy, loaded with technology, and this trim level doesn't even have everything that's possible. We still have the option for a head-up display and so many other amazing things, but what did you think? If you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. More than willing to talk you through any issues that you might be having. But if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your social networks, and until I see you next time, take care. And one thing I love about this ride, I feel like I want to use the force right now. After you release. Try that again. So, all we do is push. I guess it helps if I press the right button.